The lantern flame danced low on the wooden table, painting the whitewashed walls in soft gold. The heavy quilt lay across us, its stitched squares still carrying the scent of lavender from the wedding chest. My heart beat fast against my ribs. I lay very still, the cool night air brushing my cheek through the open window crack. John breathed quietly beside me. In that moment, after he had asked again for the closeness expected in our first month, a question formed I had never dared speak. No one had told me how those nights would press on a young bride's spirit. I didn't know yet how many evenings like this one lay ahead. I'm Rebecca Amish. Here I share the hidden parts of my story so other hearts might feel less alone. If these words touch something true in you, I would be grateful if you join me by subscribing. What quiet expectation have you carried in your own life? Let me continue now. Our wedding day had passed in a gentle blur of hymns and well wishes. We stood before our community and spoke our vows with trembling voices. The first week of marriage felt like stepping into a holy room I had only glimpsed from outside. During the day we worked side by side, me at the garden and stove, John with the horses and fields. At night the Ordnung's teachings about the first month guided us toward union and adjustment. Each evening after prayers he would ask for the physical part of marriage. I tried to meet those requests with an open heart. Love lived there. Nervousness lived there too. The second night came much like the first. The lantern glowed. The quilt felt heavier than it should. I said little and tried to yield as the older women had described. John was patient and kind in his way. He spoke softly about building our life together the way our people always had. I wanted to be the wife he needed. I wanted it deeply. Yet a small tightness grew in my chest that I pushed down. What I didn't know yet was how those repeated nightly requests would begin to weigh on me before the first month was even halfway through. By the end of the first week the pattern had settled. Every night, he asked. Every night, I tried to answer with willingness. His responses stayed gentle. He never demanded with harsh words. He simply followed what he had been taught about a husband's role and a wife's yielding. We were both young, both shaped by the same community ways. During the days I smiled at singings and helped with meals. But small moments of withdrawal appeared when I folded laundry or churned butter. I hid them carefully. I told myself this was simply the adjustment every new bride faced. One Sunday, after the service, an older married woman sat beside me at the shared meal. The smell of fresh bread and coffee filled the air. She leaned close with a warm smile and spoke about learning the ways quickly in the first moon. Her words carried kindness and warning at the same time. I nodded and thanked her while my hands twisted the edge of my apron. That conversation planted the first real seed of unease. I began to wonder how long my quiet discomfort could stay hidden from everyone else. I loved my husband. That truth never left me. I loved the steadiness of his hands on the reins, the way he prayed with such simple faith, the life we were trying to build. Our community held real beauty, the way neighbors helped without being asked, the songs from the Ausbund that lifted the heart. Yet alongside that beauty I felt my own comfort and pace slowly disappearing under the nightly weight. Both things lived inside me, love and fear, gratitude and quiet confusion. I carried them together, without speaking of either. The following week brought a small pocket of peace. We attended a frolic at a neighbor's farm. Laughter rose under the trees. Children ran through the grass. For a few bright hours the nightly pattern felt far away. John and I worked beside each other, and the sun warmed my face. I breathed easier. That ordinary daytime joy made the contrast sharper when evening came again. The requests continued. My silences after them grew a little longer. Inside I asked myself where duty ended and where my own spirit could find room to breathe. The pattern stretched into the second and third weeks. Each night the same gentle request came. I met it as best I could, but the tiredness settled deeper into my bones. John noticed my quieter moods. He would touch my hand with care and speak of patience and Gelassenheit. His compassion never left him. We were both trying to follow the path laid before us. Yet the questions inside me grew louder. How much of myself was I supposed to set aside in these early weeks? How long could I keep going without my heart growing cold? That afternoon, I stood near the kitchen window washing dishes when I overheard two women talking outside. Their voices carried on the breeze. They spoke about how the first month shapes everything that comes after in a marriage. The words hung in the air like smoke. I dried my hands slowly on the towel, heart beating hard. I didn't know how much more of this nightly pattern I could carry without something inside me beginning to break. The quiet dread followed me through the rest of the day and into the evening. The dread stayed with me through the next singing. Voices rose in the old hymns, but my mind kept returning to those overheard words. I sat among the women with my hands folded tight in my lap. John sat with the men across the room. The distance between us felt wider than the wooden floor. The nightly requests continued under the Ordnung's quiet watch. Each evening the lantern burned, the quilt settled, and the expectation returned. I met it, but pieces of my peace slipped away. The pattern had become heavier than I ever imagined when we first spoke our vows. Around this time, I heard the full story of my friend Lydia, who had married 1 year before me. We sat together at a quilting frame one cool afternoon. Needles moved steadily through the fabric while she spoke softly of her own first month. Her husband had asked the same kind of nightly closeness. She showed the exhaustion in her eyes even now as she remembered. Her words were not dramatic. They were quiet and honest. Listening to her gave me both comfort and a clear mirror. We were not the only ones walking this path. The pattern repeated across many young brides. The quilting circle offered a gentle breathing space. Bright threads and shared stories, the smell of apple pie drifting from the kitchen, laughter between the stitches. These moments reminded me of the true warmth our people can hold. Yet they existed beside the deeper pressure at home. The community gave support and belonging. At the same time, it asked for complete yielding from the very start of marriage. Both things were true. Beauty and cost. Faith and strain. I held them together in my heart while the days of that first month continued. One night toward the end of the third week, the request felt especially heavy. I lay there after, staring at the dark ceiling. Tears came quietly. I finally whispered some of my discomfort to John. He listened without anger. We talked in low voices about what we had both been taught and how unprepared we felt. His own confusion showed. He wanted to be a good husband. I wanted to be a good wife. That honest conversation cracked open something between us. It was not a solution, but it was truth spoken in the dark. The full weight arrived in the final days of that first month. The repeated nightly demands left me carrying a deep inner exhaustion I hid from everyone. I moved through chores with a heavy heart. Tears came when I was alone in the barn or garden. The system had shaped these expectations from the beginning, demanding full surrender of body and spirit in those early sacred weeks. I realized then how little room had been given for a new bride's questions or pace. The grief of that understanding sat heavy and ordinary, not loud, but lasting. Early one dawn, I walked alone to the barn. The first light touched the fields. Cool air filled my lungs. My hands rested on the old wooden rail as I breathed deep. The land felt steady under my feet. In that quiet moment, I reconnected with my own spirit and a simpler faith beyond all the rules. Something inside me softened and strengthened at the same time. I understood I could still honor my marriage while gently protecting the quiet flame of who I was. The realization settled softly, like morning light through the window. I saw that I could hold both my vows and my need for peace. John and I were learning together, two young people shaped by traditions that rarely spoke of these struggles. The first month had taught me its hard lesson, not by breaking me, but by showing me where I needed to grow roots of honest breath inside our life. If you are carrying the weight of expectations that press too heavily on your heart, whether in marriage or any sacred promise, know this. You are not alone in the quiet struggle. Many of us have lain awake wondering how much of ourselves we must set aside. There is room to honor what you love while protecting the gentle spirit God gave you. John and I found small, kinder words in the months that followed. The path is not perfect, but it can still be walked with more light. Sometimes the hardest nights teach us how to hold both love and truth at the same time.